Hello and welcome to my teaching demonstration for the reading of Hamlet. So in this teaching demonstration, I'm going to be analyzing Claudius' speech and the deadly plot he has within his speech. Claudius' speech analysis and the deadly plot. Act 4, Scene 3, lines 60 through 69. So the focus of this lesson is going to be on the metaphor, word choice, rhetoric, and the imagery that you get when you hear these things. For the scene context and who is Claudius addressing. So Hamlet's condition is deteriorating by the day. He has officially taken a turn for the worse, and he has just killed Polonius. Claudius gets word of this, and he sends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to find Hamlet to see if Hamlet is willing to tell them where Polonius's body is. Unfortunately, Hamlet already doesn't trust his friends, and he refuses to tell them where Polonius's body is hidden. So then he is called before Claudius, and Claudius asks him if he can tell him where Polonius's body is hidden, and he just gives him metaphors and sarcasm, and he refuses to even tell Claudius. Claudius becomes angry and frustrated with Hamlet. He decides to send him away to England for safekeeping. So Rosencrantz, Guildenstern, and Hamlet just leave the room, and then Claudius writes a letter to England, and so in this letter speech that we see, he is addressing England. However, this is when Claudius's true colors begin to show, because the letter is very deceptive. He is appearing to say one thing when in reality meaning another, and reading in between the lines you can tell very easily. So the tiered literary elements, it's tier 1 through 3, and the first tier is the metaphor that you're going to see within the speech, the reading between the lines, the rhetoric language. It's not just what Claudius says, it's the words he uses and how he says it that you can really get an understanding of what he means. And it's also the deception. Claudius is referring to himself as Hamlet's victim, when in reality he is the one that is plotting Hamlet's death. So for the rhythm analysis, I picked this line, and I'm going to do my best to pronounce it for you. For like the hectic in my blood, he rages. And basically, in the lines of which Claudius is speaking of, there's a certain pattern in which he uses when he's delivering these words, and the way that he expresses the words on a certain pattern and beat lets you know that it is the Abrahamic parameter. So the device focus in this is the metaphor. Claudius is basically degrading Hamlet in his words. He's allowing England to know that Hamlet is getting worse by the day. He is pleading with England to understand that he is suffering because of Hamlet. He is pleading for relief from England. In other words, he's asking England to go ahead and kill Hamlet for Claudius, so that Claudius can be happy again and feel relief. And in this speech, he is kind of referring to Hamlet as a disease that's kind of getting worse by the day, a disease that is making Claudius himself sick. And so England is put in a position to rescue Claudius. So to read the whole line, I'm just going to read it clearly because I cannot pronounce it as dramatically as Claudius would have. So it says, "And England, if my love thou holdest at aught, as my great power thereof may give thee sense, since yet thy cicatrice looks raw and red, After the Danish sword, and thy free awe pays homage to us, thou mayest not coldly set our sovereign process, which imports at full by letters congruing to that effect. The present death of Hamlet, do it, England, for like the hectic in my blood, he rages, and thou must cure me till I know 'tis done. So the metaphor line in there is, since yet thy cicatrice looks raw and red. And in this, he is referring to a wound that has not yet healed or has continually been bruised. And you begin to read between the lines, and you start to see that he's referring to Hamlet as this. So you're starting to see like the sneakiness in his letter. So the next line that we're going to look at for the literary devices is rhetoric. And England, if my love thou wouldst aught, my greatest power thereof may give thee sense. So he is flattering England, but at the same time he's kind of threatening them. So if England loves him, I guess, and respects him, they will do this favor for him. It's sort of a silent threat if they don't help him with this request. And then the next one is the deception. Thou mayest not cold set our sovereign process, which imports at full. So this is where you can really see the deception in his words, because he's using foreign formal language, but there's a deadly intent behind it. He's asking him for the favor to care of his stepson / nephew. In other words, take care of him. But what he really is asking England is for England to kill him for him. In a sense, take care of him. This is a very insightful portion because in the whole play, Hamlet has always been he's always suspected his uncle for killing his father, and always has thought that, Claudius has been up to no good. And up until this point, Claudius has always sort of played along and tried to be like a loving uncle or a friend, trying to reassure Hamlet. But as soon as, he realizes that Hamlet is going to be a problem for him, he's very anxious to get rid of him. And the thing is, in front of everybody, and even Hamlet himself, he still tries to play it off as a loving uncle, as if he cares for Hamlet, and if he's concerned, because he's still trying to be, I guess, appeasive to the court of Denmark. Yet in reality, he is, plotting Hamlet's demise. And it's not just Hamlet or the court of Denmark that Claudius is deceiving. He's also deceiving England, because he's coming off to England like they're friends or good buddies, but in reality, he's asking England to kill his son and his nephew. And that puts England in a very scary position. Because what if England should decide not to comply and not to kill Hamlet? Is he going to take revenge on England? And even the way that Claudius delivers the way that he speaks when he speaks very sure of himself, very strong, and very calculated. He's very comfortable with making decisions. He doesn't doubt himself. He doesn't shy away. And it kind of gives you insight that, maybe he did kill the king before him. Maybe he is so okay with getting rid of Hamlet because he killed his own brother prior to Hamlet. And the fact that the language that he chooses is very steady and very strong. He's used to being in control. He's used to being okay with these horrible decisions that he's making. So this is the end of the presentation. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something from it. And I want to call to action Can you spot 3 places where Claudius is being deceitful and write those in 3 sentences?